Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. I think if you type the word robbed and Liverpool into Google right now, you will find every YouTuber and his dog using that as their title for the video, describing the Liverpool versus Manchester City match as Liverpool were robbed. Now, first of all, a robbery happening in the city of Liverpool, unheard of. Unheard of, to be honest, kind of ironic that this time it's the Scousers themselves that are being robbed in their own city. Now, whether they were, whether they won't, the debate of the penalty rages on, no doubt. But to me, I didn't hear that cry for robbery when Manchester City weren't given a second goal at the Etihad, when Akanji puts his hand, limp-wristed hand, onto the shoulder of Alisson as that corner comes in the second half. City were 1-0 up at the time. Ruben Diaz pops it into an empty net. Alisson flaps at it. Completely nonsensical decision from the referee. It should have been 2-0. Who knows what would have happened? Therefore, City were robbed, weren't they? City were robbed. Absolutely. A refereeing decision went for Liverpool in that game at the Etihad. This time, supposedly, a decision has gone City's way. So they say it evens itself out. Maybe it has in this scenario. So maybe fair's fair. Is that what we're looking at right now? But also, I wanted to talk about Pep as well. Did Pep get it wrong? That's my big debate for this particular video, because I felt like there was certainly an area of the pitch that he got it wrong. But is he entirely to blame? It was a bold move from Pep. It was a brave decision to play Alvarez on that left-hand side. But did he get it that wrong? Or was it Alvarez himself? You know, sometimes you need to look at the players on the pitch, which is something I'm going to get onto shortly with the player ratings coming up in a second or two. But what I wanted to also highlight for the first time, I want to do the first half stats versus the second half stats and then give you the overall stats, because I felt like it was a game of two halves where I felt like Liverpool edged it overall. I think they'll be more frustrated at the draw than Manchester City will be. But there were elements in that first half that I felt like City, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. We're talking hypothetical scenarios now. Had Nathan Ake not made that mistake, who knows what would have happened, because I felt like that invited pressure on. But let's have a look at the first half match stats here. The possession is the same in both halves. 53% possession to Liverpool to City's 47%, minus a 0.12% here, something along those lines. But to the nearest percent, 53 and 47% across both halves, which is interesting. First half, 7 shots to Liverpool, only 1 was on target, and you can see that it's reflected with their XG being 0.56 in the first half. Compare that to Manchester City's 7 shots, 4 on target, with an XG of 1.15 and a big chance created as part of that as well. Passes was reasonably even as well, 318 to our 275. We were quite aggressive as well. We committed more fouls than Liverpool in this game, which is good. You've got to go there. You can't go there and be submissive. You've got to go to Anfield as the aggressor. Take the game to them. And we did that aggressively. XG, though, I think that reflects that City created the better of the chances in the first half. The clarity of the chances were very much in City's favour. Frustrated that we didn't come in at half-time at 2-0, to be honest. I felt like we could have really, done some big damage, psychological damage to that Liverpool side had we gone in at 2-0 at half-time. And then we come out and immediately gift Liverpool an opportunity to get back into the game. And that reflected here in the second half match stats, which I'll show you now. So second half, like I said, possession was the same. Straight away, look at that XG, 2.14. They skyrocketed. They upped the ante. They upped the tempo, Liverpool, in that second half. 12 shots with 5 being on target and only 3 shots from Manchester City and 2 of them on target. And our XG plummeted down to 0.41. 3 big chances for Liverpool in that second half to our 1, which was that Phil Foden one, which was frustrating that he didn't put that in the back of the net. Passes, pretty even again. 6 fouls to their 4 and 2 yellow cards, of course. Now, overall, it looked like this if you've added them all up. But looking at that XG, I feel that's why Liverpool will feel a little bit more frustrated, because their XG, 0.7 of that XG actually comes from the McAllister penalty, in truth. So, they're bound to get a high XG. When you get penalties, you get big XG, because you're expected to put that into the back of the net. But still, I felt like Liverpool overall, and the stats reflect that, they just edged it a little bit. Debates over the penalty and things like that. Jamie Carragher, the Scousers, agreeing with me. It was interesting to hear the Sky Sports panel talking about that as well. All of them in pretty much agreement that it was The on-field decision was the debatable one. The fact that VAR didn't overturn it and that was never going to happen. That's exactly what I said in my watch-along and my match reaction after it. I felt like there's a debate to be had there. Liverpool are clearly going to say stonewall penalty. And I get the argument. I understand the argument. If it happened the other end of the pitch, I would be screaming. I would be screaming for it. I get it. I absolutely get it. But I think Doku's impact wasn't that forceful. He tried to pull his foot away. He connects with the side of his foot rather than the studs. And I think that's what makes the difference. I think that's what makes the difference in the end. But now, onto the player rating, starting with Ederson. You got to jump straight to that second from bottom statistic you can see there. Penalty committed. Frustrating that that's gone down statistically, and that is what's wrong with stats, to be honest, because you're going to see Nathan Ake's graphic in a minute, and there is no statistic on there that reflects what happened. There is no stat that says Nathan Ake, poor back pass stat. There is no stat for that. This goes down as an Ederson error statistically, and this is why you shouldn't always depend on the stats, why you should use your own judgment and your own eyeballs to make your opinion on the game. Generate your own opinion. Don't just heavily rely on the numbers, because this isn't fair on Ederson, in my opinion. He did make a mistake in committing to it. I feel like Núñez was always going to get there. I feel like Ederson is, 5% to blame? And the rest of the 95% for me heavily lands at the doorstep of Nathan Ake. For me, I fully believe that Nathan Ake's got to be to blame for that. Ederson, you argue that, he shouldn't have come out quite to that degree, and he should have recognised that Núñez was going to get there first. Prior to that, not much to do. One save, before the 56th minute when he comes off. Passing accuracy was pretty decent. 6 out of 10 long balls as well, which was part of our game. Those low trajectory passes that aren't really like oofing it up to Erling Haaland. They were clever, they were like little dink balls into the halfway line for De Bruyne and for Foden and Bernardo Silva. And he was pulling them off, and that's what the game plan was going to be for Ederson. He wasn't on the pitch long enough to enact more of that game plan, and who knows what would have happened had that penalty not been given. 6 out of 10 for Ederson for me, and his score's gone down still because he did commit the foul at the end of the day. So 6 out of 10 for Ederson. Ortega, on the other hand, I was this close to giving him man of the match. I was this close to giving him man of the match, and the fact that he's only played 34 minutes is a big reason why I didn't. But he saved us. To be honest, he kept us in this game. He's won us a point here, really, along with a couple of other players as well. One in particular, but Stefan Ortega was fantastic in that second half. From a traditional goalkeeping perspective, really, really good. I was critical of him yesterday with those long balls. As you can see, Ederson got 10, committed 10 long balls of 6, which were accurate. Ortega tried 11, of only which 4 were accurate. So that was my criticism of Ortega in the second half, that he was trying to find Haaland, and no one's going to beat Van Dijk. Van Dijk will gobble that up all day long. And I mean, to the point where Haaland didn't even attempt to win some of these long balls because they weren't that accurate enough to even challenge Van Dijk. So that's a little bit of a criticism, a tiny, tiny criticism of Ortega there. But from goalkeeping perspective, shot stopping, positional awareness, run-outs, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He kept us in the game and he wins us a point. Definitely. 4 saves as well, 1 high claim, 2 run-outs, of which both were successful. Really good, really pleased to know that Stefan Ortega is our number 2 goalkeeper, and depending on the severity of Ederson's injury, you're wondering, I have no qualms in the idea of him being between the sticks for any games going forward. I'm quite comfortable with Ortega, and hopefully we can tie him down to a contract, because him as a number 2 goalkeeper, we've got the best 2 combined. If you compare both first choice and second choice goalkeepers across the Premier League squads, I feel like these 2 together combined are the best 2. So we've got to keep him at the club. We really do. Kyle Walker. I could not believe the criticism that I genuinely joked in my match reaction that I was thinking finally he's going to get some recognition, because I felt like he had a decent game. Mind was blown. My mind was absolutely blown to hear the level of criticism that was levelled at Kyle Walker following this game. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it. And to me, it echoes like stubbornness. People who've planted their flag in the ground as anti-Kyle Walker people with agendas, and people who don't really understand the game in truth, because I'm struggling to see how you can justify blaming Kyle Walker for this game. I am absolutely dumbfounded to the idea that Kyle Walker is being blamed for this game, to the point where if you don't understand why City didn't win, if you don't understand it and you're asking, oh, what went wrong, but habitually, just because of habit and your stubbornness, that you need a scapegoat so you can help yourself sleep at night, so you can feel better about why did it go wrong, who have I been blaming all season? I know, Kyle Walker, I'll blame him again, let's blame Kyle Walker again. This is that's the stuff you do when you're 13 years old. I remember being like that. I was like that when I was a kid. You look for a scapegoat, but I feel like I've matured. I feel like my level of understanding of the game has grown to a point where Kyle Walker... Am I going blind here? Are these numbers? It's like I've made them up. Feels like I've made them up. You go and find them yourself. If you don't believe me, look at the fucking numbers. Look at the numbers the guy's putting on the board. That guy was just everywhere yesterday. There's one number on there that I've not put on his graphic. Now, he was dribbled past a few times by Luis Diaz. So this is me again. I'm trying to be honest with you guys and give you my honest opinion without proving that I have an agenda that's pro Kyle Walker. I'm just trying to look at it from a level playing field. I'm trying to be fair to all of the City players without scapegoating individuals. It's disgusting practice. It really is. People in positions that shouldn't be doing it, to be honest. But yeah, defensively, when I talk about the dribbled past of Luis Diaz as well, I felt like Luis Diaz bobbled his way past him a few times. Fortunate. There was a moment where Rodri and Kyle Walker came together, and between the two of them, you're blaming Rodri. I didn't hear anyone complaining at Rodri. He was equally there, just as much as Kyle Walker was there. Both of them didn't stop Luis Diaz. It was a combination of a bit of clever trickery footwork from Luis Diaz and a part of luck. He actually did get tackled, but it ricochets back off his shin and goes, fortunately, into the path of Luis Diaz, and away he goes. Sometimes the penny just drops that way. It's just a bit of unfortunate. But outside of these little details that people are nitpicking at Kyle Walker, but completely ignoring the match-saving tackles, the point-grabbing tackles, we would have lost that game if it wasn't for Stefan Ortega and Kyle Walker yesterday. We would have lost. Guaranteed. Hands down. There is no debate in that, and the numbers prove it. 4 tackles, of which one of these tackles goes down as a stat that I haven't seen this season as a last man tackle. You know? Luis Diaz going through on goal, Kyle Walker gets back brilliantly. Prior to that, 3 tackles. There were shots blocked on there that I've not even included as well. Again, Luis Diaz with a shot on the penalty spot. Kyle Walker throws himself at it. Heroic defending. Absolutely love it from Kyle Walker. 3 clearances, 3 interceptions, 2 aerial duels. He won both of them. What more has this guy got to do to earn the respect of City fans? Honestly, I'm absolutely mind blown. Could not believe what I was listening to last night, and reading some of the comments from City fans is just crazy. Absolutely crazy. 8 out of 10 for me, Kyle Walker. Moving on. Manuel Akanji, solid. Really good. In the absence, well, not by choice, to be honest. Pep dropped him for this game. But Akanji stepped up. He did all right. Not great in the aerial duels department, to be honest, because he went up for 8, of which Darwin Núñez won 6 of them, or whoever it was he was going up against. I imagine it was Darwin Núñez. But he struggled in the air, Akanji, in this game. But outside of that, the typical defensive work that you expect from Akanji was really, really good. Second half, we needed that. And that's the issue with these stats as well. A lot of these stats, I think the positive ones from an attacking point of view as well, they were all in the first half and they were non-existent in the second half. A lot of the stats from our attacking players that you're going to see later into this video as well, which is interesting. But defensively, throughout the game, Akanji was solid enough. I felt like he was... Yeah, he did a good job. Whether Ruben Diaz would have done a better job, hindsight, again, we're talking hypothetical, but 4 clearances and 3 interceptions to his name. He entered into 2 ground duels. He won both of them, and he won a tackle as well, which is good. And passing accuracy was really good as well, 93%. 7 out of 10 for Manuel Akanji. Nathan Ake, another good performance other than that mistake. You move that mistake out of the game and he's had a very, very solid performance. Just one little moment that has cost us dearly, and it's to the detriment of the end result, to be honest. Again, we're talking hypothetical. We wonder what would have been, ifs, buts and maybes. That's what we're talking about now, and it's very easy to analyse football from a hindsight perspective, from what would have been, getting our crystal balls out and thinking what could have been. But I feel like it's just when you go into a place like Anfield, toxic, horrible, hostile, so unwelcome. Nobody's welcome at Anfield. And they make you feel like that. And if you gift wrap them an opportunity to get back into the game and pop a little bow on it, which Nathan Ake absolutely did, gave them an opportunity back into the game, you wonder what would have happened. You wonder whether the pressure wouldn't have been quite as strong on Manchester City. You wonder if that wouldn't have changed the game quite drastically. Who knows? A mistake could have happened 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later. Again, we're talking hypothetical. But without that mistake from Nathan Ake, I wonder what the result would have been. I'm still wondering what the result would have been, and we'll never know. But outside of that mistake, 4 clearances, 2 interceptions, 3 ground duels. He won all 3. 3 tackles and a block shot. Pretty good. Pretty impressive defensive numbers that he's putting on the board there, but we can't ignore the mistake. And for that mistake alone, catastrophic error. 6 out of 10 is the best I can give Nathan Ake, to be honest. John Stones, man of the match, just ahead of Ortega. I was torn between the two. He played the full 90 minutes and he barely put a foot wrong. The fact that he scored as well has given me the easier choice to award him man of the match with that 8 out of 10 that I've given him there. But outside of the goal, which you can see with that one shot on target, 2 aerial duels, he won both, 2 block shots, 2 clearances, 2 ground duels, he won one of them. He was just steady Eddie in the middle of the park. I thought he was composed, assured, being asked to do this new job. He's a baby when it comes to a midfielder. He's a baby, you know. He's 1 year old as a midfielder. You know, as a Premier League midfielder, he's finding his feet still, you know, and we still look at him like, oh, that's it. We take him for granted how difficult that midfield role is in a Manchester City side to sit alongside Rodri and do the job he's doing. And he came under criticism from Rodri as well, which brings me on to Rodri, if he is the next graphic. I can't remember who's next. Yep, it is. It's Rodri. 7 out of 10 for Rodri. I thought he had a good game, but for me, what stood out, an okay game. Not so good, he was okay. Typical Rodri numbers that he's putting on the board. He was powerful and his presence was felt in that game. It really was. But his presence was felt from a City perspective, from your camaraderies, from your teammates' perspective, in a bit of a negative light. And I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it at all when I see players throwing their arms at their own teammates. Now, I get in the heat of the moment. Sometimes, I mean, we as fans as well, I'm screaming, effing and jeffing at all the City players. One particular player last night I was getting really annoyed with yesterday. And we're behind, you know, a screen, or we're at the stadium, or we're whatever. Wherever you are in the world, I feel like fans have got more availability to bitch and moan. We can do that. But you're on the pitch, mate. When you're on the pitch and you're part of the team, you know, I feel like Rodri needs to be a little bit more encouraging, a little bit more supportive. If you're going to criticise, keep it constructive. You know, I felt like it was too negative. There was a couple of passes that he gave away in that second half and the first half that was his sloppy pass that he made John Stones or Kevin De Bruyne work for it, or Phil Foden, and he's throwing his arms at them like it's their fault that they should have come and collected it better. It was his bad pass that gave it away. Now, he wasn't sloppy with the ball. There was just a couple of moments, and it stood out to me, and it bugs me. It irritates me, and I feel like that in that environment, we need to all be on the same page. Away at Anfield, we need to all be on the same page, you know, and supporting one another. We can't be that bringing that toxicity into our own environment to the point where it generates arguments and disagreements. But this is a minor detail I'm talking about. I'm making it sound bigger than it actually is, but in truth, he had a reasonably good game. It was okay, a typical Rodri performance, as you can see. 3 tackles, really good. 2 clearances, 8 ground duels, he won 4 of them. He gave the ball away 16 times, which was a little bit loose, but 87% passing accuracy is okay. 7 out of 10 for Rodri. Kovacic, another 7 out of 10, but we're talking about 21 minutes of football. I think people were torn. I understand the argument of Kevin De Bruyne coming off, why people were annoyed. Kevin De Bruyne, yep, I'll get onto him shortly, but there is no denying the impact that Kovacic had in this game. A controlled impact, an impact that steadied the game. It stymied the flow of Liverpool press and their ability to create chances. We nullified them. Once he came onto the pitch, the game quietened down, and it was so needed because it was a hostile pinballing around that midfield, and it was loose, and the ball was up for grabs, and we don't play loose football. We can't play loose football. You know, we're too open-ended. Our defence is so expansive. If we start giving it away in midfield, we're going to give away chances, and that's exactly what we were doing. Exactly what we were doing. We were handing Liverpool the incentive to score a second goal in that game. He came on and he poured water on the fire. He poured a lot of water on the Liverpool fire yesterday, and I thought it was good. I thought it was a good decision by Pep Guardiola in hindsight. But I get the argument why keeping Kevin De Bruyne on the pitch is always worth doing because of you know what he can do. You know what Kevin De Bruyne is capable of. But for me, Kovacic now, I feel like we've got to start, for me, in the top of my head. I know Doku had a reasonably decent impact, but let's think about that midfield now. I would like to see maybe Bernardo Silva tried on the left. I think maybe we start having some, going back to players that we can trust. We know what we get. And right now, Kovacic is our most informed player. When we're talking about control, not in terms of goals or assists, he's not that guy. He's not getting goals and assists. Fair enough, I can see that argument. But in terms of control, the last 5 or 6 games, this guy's been absolutely sensational. He's maintained that midfield to a degree that's been absolutely brilliant. Fantastic midfield performance. And for me, he's got to start. So for me, I'm thinking either Bernardo Silva on the left, De Bruyne and Kovacic in front of John Stones and Rodri in the middle. Kovacic and De Bruyne would be quite nice. Not the most mobile, but clever. 2 geniuses sitting in there. I like that idea. You've got control and the aggressive passes of Kevin De Bruyne. I like that. And that means Phil Foden on the right. And I can hear the cries already. Personally, I prefer Phil Foden in the middle. But I feel like Kovacic needs to be playing. He needs to be playing, especially in games like this where the control wasn't there. He brought that level of control to this game, and I was really impressed with that substitute appearance. 36 touches, 90% passing accuracy, a key pass and interception, 3 ground duels, he only won 1 of them, but 1 dribble attempt, he won it as well. 7 out of 10 for Kovacic. Looking forward to the rest of the season with him in the midfield. Phil Foden, first half, fantastic. I think I over-egged his performance yesterday. I think I described it as sensational, which is an adjective that's well excessive. He was not sensational. He was good. Yeah, I over-egged his performance yesterday. I think in my memory, when I'm looking back at the game, the emotions riding high. I take back that word sensational and replace it with high-octane effort. Do you know, I felt like he was everywhere. The first half in particular, he was a real busybody and really good. I really enjoyed watching Phil Foden throughout the game, but there was a lack of output in that second half. And he's not the only one. It's not like, oh, let's all blame Phil Foden for that second half. They all dropped in that second half. They all shrank into their shells a little bit in that second half. And Phil Foden was one of them. He was one of them. But you can see the effort. You can see the effort that I'm talking about. 13 ground duels, more than anyone else in the Manchester City side. He won nearly half of them. 6 dribble attempts. That's aggressive football, an attacking-minded play from Phil Foden. Again, he only won 3 of dribbled successfully 3 times though. 19 times he gave the ball away, which is too loose with that for me. 1 tackle completed as well. 2 shots, of which 1 was on target. 7 out of 10. A lot of that score comes down to his first half performance. Second half, he struggled to have any sort of impact on that game. He missed a big chance as well, actually, in the second half. That's worth mentioning because that could have been a real game turner. Unfortunate, he could have either squared that to Haaland or dinked it over Kelleher. Yeah, little fine details there. You wished he would have buried it, but I mean, it wasn't a bad performance from Phil Foden. Like I said, the first half was strong. Kevin De Bruyne, you can see the numbers straight away that he's that guy. He lives off moments, doesn't he? He's just so he didn't have a great game in the 69 minutes that he played. He didn't have a great game, but there was just suddenly, bang, Kevin De Bruyne doing something dangerous. And you can see that with 3 key passes to his name. Of course, he got that assist for John Stones. It wasn't the world's greatest corner, but tactically it was. The whole team played their part in that corner. Kevin De Bruyne's pass wasn't the most difficult pass in the world to pass it to John Stones at the near post there, but he still had to get it spot on, and spot on it was. And he created 2 big chances over the course of that 69 minutes as well. I just felt he just went missing outside of these moments, and I would rather in that game a Kevin De Bruyne that just plays it simple and does the Kovacic side of things, just keeps the ball, keeps that ball, get our possession up, keep it. Don't allow Liverpool into the game. Stymie their flow of chance creation. And he was loose with his passing, as you can see. 64% passing accuracy. It's too low. It's too low that, at Anfield, you can't be that loose with the ball. 4 ground duels, he only won 1 of them, and 10 times he lost the ball. I see why people were annoyed at Kevin De Bruyne coming off, because in that final 21 minutes, who's to say that Kevin De Bruyne wouldn't pop up with an unbelievable assist, and that connection of Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, we could have seen it in the final 20 minutes. You don't know. But in hindsight, he brought on Kovacic, and the game was more controlled. We slowed the game down, and it suited us, and I think that decision was correct from Pep Guardiola in the end. In the end, I think the decision was justified. Whether Kevin De Bruyne agrees with it or not, I'm sure there's plenty in the comments that are going to let me know that you don't agree with it either. I personally just agree with it, but I see the point. I understand why you would want to see him play the full 90 minutes, because you know what he can do. You know what he can do. 6.5 for Kevin De Bruyne, though. 6.5 for Jeremy Doku as well, but we're talking about 21 minutes of football. I thought it was impactful. I thought he was good. Nearly impactful in the wrong way. In the 99th minute, a little bit loose. Hesitation there. That's the immaturity of a youngster like Jeremy Doku. Someone who's immature, generally immature, and asking him to defend in the 99th minute at Anfield when it's 1-1. Yeah, the immaturity shone through in that decision to hesitate. You do not let that ball bounce. You do not let that bounce. You clear it. You attack that ball. The second you see that ball dropping, he waited. He panicked. He didn't want to make the wrong decision. And by making no decision, you made the wrong decision. You've got to be assertive in those decisions. And the fact that it nearly cost us 2 points. Liverpool would have been massive title favourites had that penalty been given. I feel like we got the rub of the green. There is a debate to be had whether it was a penalty or not. He pulled his foot away for me. I'm going to argue that I think the on-field decision was close to being the correct decision, but it was debatable. It's not as clear-cut as Liverpool robbed. I mean, yeah, not for me. But I get the argument. But yeah, he hit the post. He smashed the woodwork, and we could be talking about a completely different narrative rather than, Doku giving a penalty away. Doku scores the winner at Anfield, and he was this close to doing it. So if we're going to stick with a left-sided player now, I think we need to pick a player that is our left-sided player, because Alvarez isn't it. Absolutely found that out the hard way yesterday. If it's going to be Doku, let's stick with him. We can't play him for 60 minutes. He has a bad game. Take him off and don't start him in the next game as punishment for not being good enough in the previous game. And Pep clearly doesn't trust him enough yet. He doesn't trust him enough. He didn't trust him enough for this game. He'd rather see a centre-forward who's been playing in attacking midfield, who he then puts on the left wing. Crazy for me, crazy. It worked against Copenhagen, but that's Copenhagen, Pep. That's Copenhagen. This is Liverpool away. Crazy. But 2 shots on target, one of which hit the post, of course. 3 ground duels for Jeremy Doku. 1 was won 4 times he gave the ball away. 6.5 for Doku. Bernardo Silva, another 6.5 for me. Just kept things going in the game. It was a strange performance from Bernardo. I think he can do a lot better, but he could have been a lot worse as well. 11 ground duels, of which he won 6. So he was putting himself about. His attitude is always fantastic, and it was there to be seen in the 90 minutes that he played at Anfield yesterday. 84% passing accuracy is decent. 3 dribble attempts, 2 were completed, which is pretty decent. Tackling as well, he's doing the defensive work, and he lost his head a little bit, to be honest. He looked a little bit rattled in that second half. He got himself booked as a result of one of the fouls that he gave away. But I don't mind it, because he kept the attitude within reason. He didn't go overly zealous into a tackle to the point where you're getting a red card or something stupid. But he did look like his head gone a little bit. Understandable, considering the circumstances. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit more going forward from Bernardo Silva. He did the simple things well. He offered himself defensively. But from an attacking point of view, there was very little creativity coming through him. He played a bit deeper, in fairness to him as well, but still, I would have liked to have seen more, but it could have been a lot worse. 6.5 for Bernardo Silva. Alvarez, shocking. It was a terrible performance. Let's not mince words. Let's call it what it is. Terrible. Some people would say, well, he's playing on the left wing, let's blame Pep Guardiola. And there's a small element of me that blames Pep Guardiola for playing him on the left wing. Absolutely. 56% passing accuracy, though. What's that got to do with where you are on the pitch? Tell me what passing accuracy. Nearly half of your passes were given to the opposition. Nearly half of them. I was banging the table yesterday at Alvarez. I was losing my mind at Alvarez, and I felt guilty after the video yesterday. I felt bad that I was nailing him yesterday. The stats have backed me up. They've backed me up, absolutely. So it wasn't, my eyes were not deceiving me. I saw what I saw yesterday on that pitch, and he was just awful. Awful. And there's nothing, it doesn't matter if you're left wing, right back, left back, even in goal, 56% passing accuracy. Come on, that's half of your passes have been given away. They're simple passes. Doesn't matter where you are on the pitch. That's got nothing to do with tactics or positional awareness. Nothing. But what does have to do with where you are on the pitch is tracking back. There was a moment in that first half where I also lost my mind, where Conor Bradley overlapped Julian Alvarez. Your fullback, mate. That's your fullback. He's going past you. You know, I don't care whether it's Julian Alvarez, Nunes, Doku, Bernardo Silva. I would have called it out for no matter who it was. Because in that position, as a winger, your duty is if your fullback goes past you, you track him. You absolutely track him. And he switched off and Conor Bradley ghosted past him to the point where he was getting a shot away. You know, all the space in the world. Julian Alvarez just went, oh shit. He suddenly realised he's 10 yards past him. He'd flown past him. Just head in the clouds moment. Where were you? Where were your brain then, mate? Where was your brain? Completely lost it. Also, an error that led to a shot, giving the ball away. One of the many passes that he gave away. Inside, away goes Mo Salah. He feeds that ball. Luis Diaz, one-on-one. That's the error that led to the shot. Thankfully, Luis Diaz did not have his shooting boots on in this game. And that major error that led to a shot came from Julian Alvarez giving it away. 4 dribbles, 2 of which were successful. That's okay. 7 ground duels, he won 3 of them. Okay, he gave the ball away 19 times. He's not a left winger. We've found that out pretty quickly. Copenhagen, it was all right, worked to a degree. Did not work at Anfield. It was a shocking performance. So for me, he's got to go back to the bench for a little bit. Come on as an impact substitution if we need him. Rotate potentially between that Kevin De Bruyne role or maybe Kovacic role potentially. Coming on for Haaland if we've already won the game. That's Alvarez's role now for the rest of the season. You know, Pep absolutely loves him. You can tell Pep has a real soft spot for Alvarez. I do when he's played in the right position. I do. But outside of being played in the wrong position, his standards were just below what we need, you know, away at Anfield. And that's why he came off when he came off. Correct decision, 5 out of 10 for Julian Alvarez. Haaland, final player to talk about. A frustrating game for him, to be honest, because I felt like he did all right. Like, okay, anonymous for the majority of the game. That first half, he beat Van Dijk. You know, he rinsed him, but to the point where he rinsed him, but did he? He beat him, but he had to stretch for that shot to try and get that shot away, and it goes straight down the throat of Kelleher, which is that one shot, one on target that you can see. 3 key passes, mind you, isn't bad at all for someone who only touched the ball 22 times. So, yeah, very little to talk about for Erling Haaland. Once again, 80% passing accuracy, which is okay. 5 ground duels, he won 2 of them. He's not even entering into aerial duels, with Van Dijk. Didn't even fancy it. I don't blame him. You aren't winning them. You're not winning them. You know, and the ball that came up from Ortega in the second half, they weren't even there to be duelled. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Frustrating afternoon. Another frustrating afternoon for Erling Haaland. I can only give him a 6. Blues, what do you think? Give me your player ratings below. Is there anything that you agree with, completely disagree with? Whatever your thoughts, whatever your opinions, I want to hear them. Get in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up Silva.